challenges are, the things that you're dealing with, and put them on magnets. Magnets are up on boards over there. It's a nice sort of data visualization, IRL right there. So Brian, what are you seeing in terms of challenges that publishers are facing, and then challenges that tech providers are facing?
Yeah, I'll start with publishers because there's more publisher challenges. I think too many tech providers are at the bar. But I haven't finished grouping, but I think one of the, right in this area, basically has everything to do with mobile monetization. I think the best way of summing it up is monetizing mobile in a sexy way.
Yeah.
But everything else, mobile monetization, mobile demand, monetizing mobile page views, mobile monetization, et cetera, comes up again and again, the words mobile and monetization. Over here is sort of where I grouped complexity type issues, problems, too many vendors to evaluate, and that kind of thing, and things to do with programmatic, you know, whether it's fraud, or there's a lot about viewability standards, some stuff about bot traffic and whatnot. And then I like this, too many vendors. And then right here is the large ad block section. So clearly publishers do think it's a big problem. One of the most interesting things is, you know, beyond ad block, ad blockers, ad block, is how much slow load time comes up, which I think relates to the programmatic sort of thing.
It's very tight.
I like the one has one line of JavaScript, ... So everyone who is a publisher knows that there are infinite numbers of people who just want to put one line of JavaScript on your site that they promise won't affect it. But slow load time keeps coming up again and again. Latency keeps coming up again and again. And I think when you add that together with ad block, that gives a good picture of some real challenges. A lot of this other stuff is, you know, defining native, traffic acquisition, and internal challenges like talent.
Yeah, those are sort of evergreen. And,
yeah.
And a lot of these we heard this morning in the publisher town hall too, which Sarah and I are going to go over in a minute. What about the tech providers? What are they saying is a challenge from where they're sitting?
You know, it's varied, and I spent more time on the publishing, but you know, from usually what we find on the tech provider thing, there's usually a big grouping, and this one also has a big grouping of if it's vendors selling to agencies that complain about agencies or selling to publishers, they say, oh, it's not published. Publishers not willing to try new things, yeah. Willingness to try new ad formats, willingness to getting publishers to innovate and whatnot. There are some concerns about overall, you know, noise in the market, saturated market, too many offerings, selling to the right audience. And then there's just some sort of overall challenges, I think, to the industry. The death of Flash is brought up, and changing video standards in the market, Flash to HTML5, VAS to VPAID.
I'm surprised we haven't heard more about viewability so far.
Well, there was a very big, maybe I didn't get to it. There is a big thing about viewability standards on the publisher thing.
Cool. Well, that's great. I'm sure that will continue to evolve over the next day or two, and we'll encourage people to keep adding their challenges to the board. It helps us inform our discussion, and thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
I'd like to bring now to the stage Sarah Stringfellow. She's Director of Publisher Services and Development at Say Media. We've mentioned a couple times the Publisher Town Hall this morning. We're going to talk about what publishers said. It's all off the record, but we won't attribute things to anyone. But these are challenges that are sort of across the board. So Sarah, if you would come up on stage, we can talk about what publishers are thinking about when they think about monetization. So, Sarah.
Yes.
You were there this morning. There was a nice big group of publishers sharing, you know, what their big concerns are, what their challenges are. What was your big takeaway when you come out of that meeting saying, okay, well, here's what I think publishers have at top of mind right now?
We touched on a lot of different subjects, but I think it really all boiled down to still being able to make money.
To what?
Still being able to make money.
Make money.
Whether it's mobile, the platform concerns, ad blocking, everything was how do they make money the same way they used to?
Yeah, and there are, the challenges now are different than they were 5 years ago, and I'm sure they will be different going down the line. One of the big topics that came up was platforms. It's a way of growing audience, but there's also a concern about lack of transparency at the sort of platform level. Can you talk about what some of the publishers were concerned about in terms of platforms?
Well, I actually thought one of the interesting things that was brought up was how the platforms are not really taking away much traffic for the new content. I mean, they take it away for the new content, but not for the evergreen content. So it's really kind of exposing the new breaking content, but users are still going back to the sites to read the evergreen legacy content. But when and if anyone introduces an indexing feature, that's going to be a big problem.
Right. So right now, as of now, Apple News doesn't have this indexing problem. It's not a concern. There's no long-tail evergreen stuff that people are going to discover there as opposed to the publisher's sites, right?
Yeah.
But that could change.
It definitely will change.
It will change. And that lack of knowing when or how or why is disturbing. What about you? You came away with a big takeaway that also struck me, and it pertained to ad blockers. What was the big thing that you learned about ad blocking and what publishers are doing with their ad blocking audience?
Yes, it was actually news to me to hear that publishers were packaging their blocked audience segments and selling them to advertisers. Finding a way to make money off the users that are preventing them from making money, which is actually really interesting.
Yeah. So actually selling their ad block audience and sort of putting a silver lining on the cloud.
Somehow.
What else? There was some talk about mobile. What was your takeaway in terms of what publishers are thinking about on the mobile front?
There was a lot of the CTR, CPM, RPM conversation. I think it's the same conversation that's been happening for a while now, really more about the lack of real estate and less about the actual click-through rates and CPMs, but figuring out how to monetize mobile the same way.
Yeah, and then video also presented its own set of challenges. I think that one thing that struck me is that people are just tired of serving these 30-second ads up against 27 chunks of content. It makes for a bad user experience, but the video ad, the rates are so good.
Another thing I thought was interesting was how for some of the publishers who don't have as broad a reach as some of the bigger companies, they don't have as much demand. So they're serving the same video over and over and over again to the same users, and users are falling off and not watching the videos.
Right. Great. And then lastly, it was like, and this ties back to ad blocking, is the page load time. I thought was an interesting challenge that a lot of people were focusing on. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, page load came up a few times with the ad blocking, with programmatic, with the different latency that we're seeing, especially on mobile. It's a big problem. I think if the ads aren't loading, you can't monetize. If the page takes too long and users are bouncing, you can't monetize. Right. So pushing the responsibility to the DSPs and SSPs to clean up their act so we can get quicker latency was a big topic.
Yeah, great. I think that's like the quick 5-minute digest.
I think that was it.
Yeah, and I think we'll be back tomorrow. Probably we'll have the town hall meeting in the morning and a digest in the afternoon. But thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sarah Stringfellow, Same Media.